You know, the original Nikon Z5 is getting up to about 4 years old now, but it still represents probably the best bang for the buck in the affordable full frame game. It had ample controls, excellent 24 megapixel image quality, even dual SD card slots. And this made the Nikon Z5 have no right to be as affordable as it was. But it was about time for successor model, and look at this. I got myself a Nikon Z5 II pre-production, but I'm excited to play with it. This camera has big shoes to fill though, if it's gonna match that same price to performance ratio that the original Nikon Z5 did such a good job of earning. And I honestly cannot think of a better place to actually test out this camera. This is somewhere I've always wanted to come to. We're in Moab in Utah. We're gonna explore Arches National Park. Big thanks to Nikon for bringing us down here to play with the Z5 II in this beautiful part of the USA. This is a landscape photographer's dream come true, and I'm very excited. But as usual, as lovely as this is, it will not change your opinion of this camera or alter our review in any way, shape, or form. I'm Chris Niccolls. This is PetaPixel. Let's explore this beautiful place together. So I mean, look at that. That's an amazing view. That's why we come here to Moab. I mean, the only thing I think I've seen that's more beautiful than this vista, maybe even more beautiful than the day my first child was born, is really the website at kh.com. I mean, it's fantastic. It's so well organized. The text is really easy to read. Very good search engine to find the gear that you're looking for. And I mean, I would rate this view an excellent plus, I guess, but I'm no expert. But the kh.com experts, they know exactly how to rate the gear that they're taking in, so that you know, if you're looking for the right camera to capture a vista like this, it's gonna be checked over the 10-point inspection process system, and you know that they're gonna rate it exactly the way it should be. You know what to expect. So if you're trying to capture vista like this, maybe get your gear at kh.com. They're the best, and that's why they're PetaPixel's official pre-owned camera gear partner. Okay, so for our tour down here in Moab, we are very grateful and very fortunate to have the help of a local. This is Kyle Meshna, photographer based in Salt Lake City, and you come down here once in a while, hey Kyle?
I do come down a lot, yeah. I've been down here a couple times in the last few weeks or so.
And you're gonna be reviewing the Nikon Z5 II as well. Kyle has his own YouTube channel. You should definitely check that out, but we really appreciate having your help here. I think it's super helpful to have a guide who knows the area where the light's gonna fall, so thank you very much.
It's gonna fall.
Right there. Let's go shoot it. Now, before we go any further, I think it's important to understand the original Nikon Z5 was a fantastic value for the dollar, but that's because a lot of it was stripped away. I mean, first off, at the heart of the Nikon Z5, you had a 24 megapixel sensor, not backside illuminated, just a CMOS chip. Same thing we found on the Nikon D750. And it was fine. I mean, for the time, the image quality was good, but scan rates were slow, readout speed was really slow, and that was largely why we had problems with rolling shutter, and the autofocus performance wasn't that good. Now we go to something like this, the Z5 II, and Nikon is not trying to make this a stripped down entry-level camera. This has a lot of advanced technology in it. You can kind of think of this as a Nikon ZF internals in a Z6 III body as far as controls go. So at the heart of this camera, we now have the new 24 megapixel backside illuminated sensor that we find in cameras like the Z6 II and the Nikon ZF. And not only does this give us improved image quality, but it actually gives us nice autofocusing performance. So this has basically got the same autofocusing algorithms that we find in cameras like the Nikon ZF. You're gonna get the automatic subject detections, you're gonna get eye detect, face detect, animal detect, birds, all of that stuff is there. As well, this can focus down to -10 EV, very impressive in low light situations. One of the things that impressed me the most about the original Nikon Z5 was that it came with a 3.69 million dot EVF, 60 frame per second refresh rate. It was actually really nice to have in a camera that affordable. We're getting a similar EVF here, 3.69 million dots, 60 frames per second refresh rate, but it's definitely brighter, going up to 3000 nits of maximum brightness. But one notable improvement over the original Nikon Z5 is this new back panel display, fully articulating 3.2-inch touchscreen display, 2.1 million dots of resolution. And what what I really like about these fully articulating screens, first off, I can protect that glass when I'm not using it. I like that, but also just for any awkward angles for landscape, low to the ground stuff, I like the extra range of movement. It's also really nice for video applications. There's another feature that's very similar to the Nikon ZF hiding in this Z5 too, and that's an updated IBIS unit. Gives us 7.5 stops of stability in the center of the picture. But what else is cool is just the innovative technology where it will also set the IBIS stability based on where your focusing point is. And this is really nice if your subject's more off to the side of the frame or in one of the corners. Focusing there, you're still going to get the ideal stability for the subject. Now, the original Nikon Z5 had those twin SD card slots, which is honestly quite unexpected in such an affordable camera. And we have those same SD card slots here, twin UHS 2 card slots. This is really nice. I mean, most entry-level cameras leave this out, but if you're going to use a camera like this for more professional work, it's nice to have that overflow or the redundancy to be able to have both files go to each card or separate your RAW and your JPEG to separate cards. It's just a really nice feature to have, and this is certainly capable of a lot of professional work. And you probably saw this coming, but inside we've got that same NEL15C battery type that's ubiquitous amongst the Nikon mirrorless camera lineup. And these are good. They give you lots of life. I like having this in here. You probably already have some at home. So that is the Green River Canyon. Beautiful, majestic view. We're here at the overlook. It's fantastic. And we're waiting for the sun to go down. Hopefully we're going to get a really nice sunset here. And of course, that means a lot of interesting colors in this shot. So what I'm going to mess around with is picture controls on the Nikon Z5 II here. And we actually now get a dedicated button for those picture controls right up top here. Now, of course, you can customize it to do a different function if you want to, and you could set picture control to any of the other function buttons as well. But I just really like having that right there as quick access. Also, just like on the Z6 III, I can now actually limit which picture controls come up in the menu. So I can get rid of any of the art filters that are on there. I can get rid of any picture controls that I don't feel I'm going to use. And that really streamlines this process for me. Okay, so we've headed out to do some night photography because, I mean, Moab, right? You got to do it. We got a beautiful clear sky, actually. We're worried, but clouds went away. Milky Way is cooperating really, really nicely, and we're going to test out this camera. And there's a lot of reasons that this camera is going to be quite strong for this kind of night photography and astrophotography. First off, it's not a stacked chip, so we get a little bit more dynamic range. We can push those shadows a little bit more. I like that. But we also have a lot of the features that we've seen in some of the other cameras from Nikon that are great for night photography. So we've got that starlight view mode that basically just boosts the overall exposure, and this I'm actually really enjoying because I don't have to necessarily have a lot of light on the subject to focus by or compose with because it's boosting it so much. And I'm also finding that I can manually focus on the stars in this mode really nicely. Just punch right in, manually focus, and I can see those little pinpoints and just make them as small as possible. That being said, because this camera has such good low light autofocusing capability, we're even finding in single point, putting a square on a bright star, the camera will autofocus off of that really well. So that's been pretty cool. The other feature that we have here is the warm display colors. And this has a couple modes. It basically lets you have a red light mode for the camera, and it can do two things. You can either have no change to the actual view itself, but all your display icons, the menus or everything are red just to kind of preserve your night vision, or you can actually have it just do red everything where it looks like an 80s horror flick and your entire composition is just a bloody mess. But either way, these are nice tools to help you out when you're shooting this kind of situation. All right, so we had a really fun time here on the Sidewinder Trail, and big thanks to Dylan and Parker for helping us do some autofocusing tests. Really cool techniques as well. The photographs was really fun. So thanks so much for your help, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all have a good one.
See ya.
See ya. Bye, Riley. So I've had some time now to play with the autofocusing on this camera. It was really nice to be able to test mountain biking here. Fantastic opportunity for faster action. As you already saw, it does a really good job in low light situations, but out here I wanted to see what I would get for hit rate. So this is gonna focus a lot like a Nikon ZF, for example. And we've got the same sensor, we've got the same algorithms, same subject detection modes. And so overall hit rate was actually really good. I mean, for these riders, I was just using face eye detect. It was working great, even though they have glasses on. It was tracking them through all that fast movement. I also, of course, can use subject detection for birds. I was getting some of the birds that were flying in the sky, and it does a great job there. I was specifically choosing subject detection modes, but I do also love that Nikon gives you an auto setting, and it usually works really well to just figure out what you are actually focusing on. So overall, very happy with that. 3D tracking is great for just general purpose focusing, lock on an object, recompose and shoot, and I basically just stay in autofocus continuously the entire time using back button focus, and I'm loving the experience. But autofocusing on the modern Nikon bodies is consistent, reliable. I mean, they've come a long way, and so that's going to be a very good experience. I also want to though see how can it handle the burst shots as I'm tracking these guys going down the trail. And this is also really impressive because remember the Z5 II, this is an affordable camera, and yet we're getting pretty decent burst rates. So first off, I do want to reiterate, this is the same sensor that we have in the ZF. It's backside illuminated, but it's not stacked in any way. And so one of the downsides here, you will get rolling shutter if you're shooting electronic shutter modes, things like that. So I try not to use electronic shutter mode too much. And this camera can go 15 or 30 frames per second if you use electronic shutter. What I'm more concerned about is the mechanical shutter mode. That's what I really want to have good results with, because I can shoot raw files in mechanical shutter mode. I can go up to, in this case, 11 frames per second with full autofocus, and that was plenty for sports and action situations. If I'm okay with JPEGs, I can actually push that up to 14 frames per second while still using mechanical shutter. And lastly, buffer rates. Now again, this is a pre-production camera, so I don't want to talk too much about this. I always like to test this later, but at the same time, I didn't have any problems. I mean, I'm shooting 11 frame per second bursts. These guys are coming down the trail. I'm getting multiple seconds, 8, 9 seconds, and still not getting any slowdown. So I think the buffer is going to handle pretty much most sports and action situations that you would put it against. So my final conclusion, really, when it comes to this fast action shooting, the Z5 II is actually really good value for the dollar. I think anybody who's looking for an affordable full frame camera, but still wants to tackle everything from kids and pets to wildlife and some sports and action will actually find themselves very impressed with this very affordable camera.
All right, well, your reward for watching that bouncy footage is you get to hear me talk about the video capabilities on the Z5 II. And looking back at the original Z5, it was kind of like your compromises were largely autofocus, burst speed, and most importantly, the video was really held back on that camera. But what is really compelling here is I'm comparing this to the more expensive Nikon ZF, and it's basically just as good and actually has one new feature I'm going to talk about a little bit later. The 24 megapixel sensor we've got in this camera is ubiquitous in a whole bunch of different video-oriented cameras. I mean, something like the Panasonic S5 II all the way up to the Sony FX9. And its big benefit is this gives us oversampled 4K recording up to 30 frames per second, but it's not the fastest reading sensor. So as you can see in some of that footage there is quite a bit of rolling shutter on this. As well, it means that it has to go into an APS-C crop when we're recording 4K 60. If you do want to play with some slow motion, this does give you the ability to record 120 frames per second, but it is just in 1080p, and honestly, the quality is not great on it. But what really surprised me, despite the slower scanning sensor on this, is I'm getting very good video autofocus performance. Testing it in low light with a person walking towards the camera, and then doing some extreme tests out here with fast-moving vehicles. I'm very impressed what it's been able to accomplish. I'd say this is some of the best Nikon autofocus I've seen. Impressive, because it's not the fastest reading sensor. Now, I mentioned one new feature we haven't seen before, and that's that this is actually capable of recording raw video right to an SD card. Now, that's a massive amount of data, so what they've done is restrict it to 4K recording. Now, you can record 4K raw video, the full width of the sensor in 4K, but unfortunately, in order to accomplish that, it's going to have to line skip. So you can see here the oversampled video that we're shooting at H.265 is significantly more detailed. Now, if you do want a more detailed raw image, you can flip it over to the Super 35 portion. There, it'll use 1:1. That'll get you better video quality. But honestly, unless I needed the absolute most flexibility with my white balance and tint, I would just record the 10-bit and log. In the last couple of years, Nikon have been making massive strides in all of the video performance on their recent cameras, and this is absolutely no exception. If you're looking around the $2,000 mark, I would say the strongest competition for this camera is the Panasonic S5 II, which does offer maybe a little bit better assist tools and anamorphic support, as well as a more effective stabilizer. But the Nikon definitely has a better autofocus system, especially for tracking fast-moving subjects, and it absolutely destroys the Canon R8 if you're looking for a capable video camera. For the price, this is an outstanding option.
Well, it's day 3 out here in the Moab area, and we've got ourselves a cloudy weather day today. You know, we're losing all that warm color, but you know what? That's okay, because sadly, our journey has come to an end with the Nikon Z5 II out here in beautiful Utah. So I want to talk about my shooting experience with this camera, just how I feel about it. And the first thing I would say is it's a very familiar one. I mean, this feels a lot like using a Z6 III or a Z50 II, and that's good. I mean, one of the things I really appreciate about this camera is it does have very capable customization, lots of controls. It's comfortable to hold, it's ergonomic to use. I can use with longer lenses, and so it's just a tried and true versatile camera design. And I also think that this is a camera design that's going to appeal to a lot of photographers. I think Nikon is really intending for this camera to be kind of a person's first serious full frame camera. Maybe they're moving up from an older DSLR, or maybe this is their first mirrorless camera, but they want something they can grow with. And I think the Z5 II does this very well. It's interesting to point out the original Nikon Z5, as great a camera as it was, really was famous for being value for the dollar. I mean, it was an affordable camera that anybody could get into, but there were certain features that were stripped away, whereas the Z5 II, don't think of it like that. This is really nothing to do with the Nikon Z5. This is closer, really, for me, more to a Nikon Z6 body, because this has got the latest focusing algorithms. It's got that beautiful camera design. We're still getting the dual card slots, but we're getting better EVF. We're getting better displays. I mean, this does not feel like a entry-level camera, really, in any way, shape, or form. But then it does beg the question, where does this camera fit in the Nikon ecosystem, and who is it for? I mean, honestly, first off, the Z6 II, I don't know if there's any reason to buy that. This camera supplants it in every way, shape, or form. I mean, this is going to be your new mid-range Nikon mirrorless full-frame camera to look at. What about the Z6 III, which is a very similar camera in handling? That partially stacked sensor is still going to give that camera advantages if you want to shoot video and if you want to have even faster burst rates that are usable with minimum rolling shutter for things like sports and action. But that being said, I do feel like this camera can handle a lot of that same photography. Now, in the Nikon lineup, the closest camera to this is actually going to be the Nikon ZF, because as far as capabilities go, there's a lot of overlap there. They have similar displays, similar IBIS units, the same kind of autofocusing performance, but they are wildly different bodies and designs. And so from a handling aspect, that's going to be quite different. So, you know, are you willing to pay a little bit more money for a camera that's arguably more beautiful with that retro-inspired design? I actually do think the Z5 II is, from a practical standpoint, a better choice, just because this grip and control structure is a little bit more useful for faster action, sports, and wildlife photography, but you have two choices there. Now, obviously, if you want more resolution, then you can go to cameras like the Nikon Z7 II, and if you want that resolution and faster shooting capabilities or video work, then you still have the Z8 and Z9, but I feel like the Z5 II is going to be insanely popular for Nikon users. But let's also keep in mind that this is really bringing Nikon's cameras into competition with a lot of other cameras in a very healthy market, because this is going up now against cameras like the Panasonic S5 II. Although the S5 II is going to have better video stabilization, I think the IBIS in this is very competitive Z5 for photography, and I do think the actual autofocusing capability is going to be substantially better than the Panasonic experience. The Canon EOS R8, that feels stripped down compared to this camera. It's a little bit more affordable, but it's also going to be giving you worse displays, a similar autofocusing experience, but no IBIS, and so I think this is, again, probably very, very compelling for people who might be starting out and haven't stuck to a brand yet. But you know, the Nikon Z5 II, I mean, it has some downsides, but they're very minor. There's not even that many to talk about. We've tried to point them out, but this is a fantastic all-around jack-of-all-trades camera. It's going to be very competitive in that sub $2,000 range, and hopefully this video helps you decide if this is the right camera for you going forward. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think about the brand new Nikon Z5 II, and do also check out the PetaPixel podcast. We have it on this exact same channel or all your favorite podcasting apps. You know how to find us there. And do check out the PetaPixel merch store. You can get a 25% discount on all the merch in there if you sign up for a petapixel.com membership. That lets you peruse the website ads free. We've got great deals there. You'll also have access to sample galleries that you can download and play with for yourself on any of the gear that we fully review. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's all say goodbye to beautiful Utah. We're going to miss it. We'll see you soon again with more on PetaPixel.